Okay, so today we're going to start working with Adobe Fresco. So once you download it, you can open it by just clicking on it. It should be a blue or green logo that says FR. And we're going to go ahead and make a haunted house. So this was my example. I can open it up for you. As you can see, there are multiple layers that I worked on. The one that we're going to do today is the sky layer. So it's going to be blending the sky from a dark blue to like a purple, and then an orange, and then a yellow. If you think that you'd rather use different colors, that's fine with me. You can pick different colors, but I want you to have multiple colors, not just like one flat sky. So try to pick up to 5 colors. So I have dark blue, purple, pink, orange, yellow, and then I blended them. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the home. Before we can do anything, we have to create our document. So we're going to go to custom size. It's very similar to Photoshop. Right now it's set at pixels, so we're going to actually change it to inches because I like working in inches. It's just a personal preference. And then we're going to change the 30 to 8, and I'm going to make my height 10. So as you can tell by 8 by 10, my orientation is going to be a portrait. If you'd rather do a landscape, you can also do that. You would put the width would be 10 and the height would be 8. And then you would just click on that. So I'm going to stick to the portrait because I'm going to use that. And then I always work in 300 pixels per inch. So that is a good quality for printing. So I'm going to go ahead, and when it says PPI, that means pixels per inch, I put in 300. The background can stay white. If you like to save this size so you don't have to do this again, you can check this box. If you don't check it, it won't save it. And then you go ahead and press Create Document. So once you create the document, you'll realize that there's 2 layers already. So if you want to create more layers, you can just go ahead, click on the 3 dots, very similar again to Photoshop, and you could say Add Layer. So let's say I'm going to use this top layer for my sky. Just before we even get started, if I needed to drag this layer, I can move it. I could delete the layers, just like every single thing that we've learned in Photoshop. I like this program because it is very similar to the spaces and stuff. So I'm going to start with the top layer. I only need 1 extra layer right now. And I'm going to show you guys the difference in the paintbrushes. So the second one down is actually the one we're going to use for the sky. So this one gives you the option to use either watercolor or oil, and they look a lot different. So I'm going to start with watercolor because I want to show you the way those look. So I can go back, I'm going to select watercolor, and in the watercolor option, there are different options of what the watercolor is going to look like. So there's a round detail, a watercolor wash soft, watercolor wash flat, watercolor wet spot, and a basic watercolor. I'm going to select watercolor wash soft. And I'm going to start, so if I just tapped on the screen, that's what it would look like. I'm going to undo that. I'm going to start with dark blue. Okay. And then I could change the size of my brush. Right now it's very large, and I'm going to keep it large, but if I needed to make it smaller, I could. We could change the flow so that it's not coming on so heavy. And then the watercolor flow that's new to this, so it's different from Photoshop. Watercolor flow means how much it spreads into each color. So I like when it spreads into the colors, so I'm going to keep it high, but I'm going to move it a little down, and then if I need to adjust it later, I can. And then we're not going to worry about changing any of these. We're just going to keep them the same. Okay, so once I have all of those adjusted, I can go ahead and start applying the paint just by clicking on the screen. If I want to apply it as a solid color, I can go ahead and just not lift my pencil. If I want to make it so that it's darker in some areas, I can just tap on the areas that I want to be darker. So I'm going to make the top darker than the bottom because this is going to be starting to blend with my purple. So since I know I want a gradient, I'm actually going to put a little bit more on the bottom so that the gradient for the purple blends into the blue. I'm going to fill in the spots. And you can see that it kind of gives, when you use the watercolor, it gives the painting a texture, which I like. Some people might not like, so I'm going to show you how to blend as well. Okay, so after my blue, I'm going to go back to my color, and I'm going to select purple. And this time, I'm going to bring the flow down and the blending up so that it blends in with my blue. So I'm going to go across, we'll move that down. I'm going to go across with my purple. I'm going to let it blend in with my blue. I'm going to go down. I'm going to add into areas. I'm going to make this a little lighter here because this is where I'm going to add my pink color. So I'm going to repeat the same process. I'm going to go back to my color. This time I'm going to select, I'm just moving down the color wheel. I'm going to select a pinkish red because that's going to blend into orange. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make the flow a little lower. I'm going to keep the water. The pink color I'm going to make lower, and then the water flow I'm going to make higher, so that it blends in nicely with my purple. I'll make my brush a little larger. I'm going to drag that down, and I'm going to keep going over the areas that I want to blend. Okay, next is orange. I'm going to find the color I like just by moving my pencil around the colors. So if I want a more vibrant orange, I can move this and see, oh, this one looks a little brighter. I'm going to keep this pretty low. So it's like towards the middle. This is my flow for the color. And I'm going to keep the water flow high because I like the way they're blending. So then I'm going to go ahead and go over just a little of my pink and then bring it down. And I'm going to use less pressure as I get lower. The more pressure you use, the more color comes out. So if you want just a little bit of color, you can use a light pressure. The nice thing about the iPad is that it's sensitive, just like it would be if you were painting on real paper. So if you used a harder pressure with your paintbrush, it would be darker. If you used a lighter pressure, it would be lighter. I'm going in with my orange and I'm just kind of filling in some spaces that I think need to be blended a little bit better. And the last color we're going to use is yellow. So I'm going to find a good yellow that I like. And I'm going to paint the bottom yellow. So that it's a nice gradient. Okay. If you like the way the watercolor looks, you could save the watercolor the way that it is, or what we could do, we could actually go to the little dots, the 3 dots, and we could duplicate this layer. So now I have 2 of the same sky. The reason I'm duplicating it is because I'm going to change the one that's on top, and I'm going to see like which one I like better. So I could actually take this one and turn the visibility off. So it's just hide layer. So now I only see the top layer. I'm going to make sure I'm on the top layer so that it's highlighted blue so that I'm working on the right layer. And then this time I'm going to switch my brush. So I was on watercolor. Now I'm going to go to my oil paints. The oil paints give a much different texture, so that's why I want to show you both. So go ahead, grab the brush. You could always practice at home with all the brushes to see which one you like the most. I'm going to go ahead and use a round brush. And when I go into my colors, I actually have, if you notice at the bottom of the colors, I have a selection of all the colors that I've used. So blue, purple, pink, orange, yellow. I can just start going back. This time, it's much darker. I'm in this little squiggly circle on the bottom near our paint options. It's how much the paint will mix with each color. So I made that larger. I'm going to make my brush size larger. I'm going to make my flow for the color lower and the paint mix high. So now I'm going over the blue. And now I'm going to go to my purple color. And you can see when you blend, this time it's a lot different. You can get a much better gradient with the oil paint, just like in real life. I don't know if you guys have ever used. So you see how much it's blending? If I didn't want it to blend that much, I could bring down the paint mix so that the purple doesn't disappear quite as much. So I can go back in and if I think that my purple came out too dark, I could always add a brighter color to it. And just keep blending. The reason the purple is darker is because it's mixing with the blue. So I'm going to go back and bring out some of those light tones in the purple. And I really like this application because you could keep going back and forth with the blending. So if I think that this blue and this purple don't blend well enough, I can go back into my colors. I can select the blue back. Maybe this time I'm going to use a lighter opacity. And I'm going to go back and blend that. Maybe I'll take the mix down even more. And then I could do the same thing with the purple. Bring it up. So that's why I said this is kind of relaxing. I'm going to move on now to my next color. Just going to be the pink. The pink is next. I'm going to try to blend that with my purple. I don't like the way that looked, so I'm going to go back. It's nice to start lower and then blend up because then the colors don't get muddy. Muddy just means like they blend with the darker colors. Oops, that's too light. So I'm going to come back, grab my medium purple, and then go over some of this. So it's a lot of going back and forth with your colors to mix them. I'm getting really sloppy now. That's a little too dark, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to leave it the way it is just for the time purpose of the video. And I'm going to go ahead and now I'm going to select my orange. I'm going to start lower and blend up. And what I could do, if I don't like the way that's blending, I could change the size and the paint mix and go back over it so that it's a little softer. That's too small, so I'm going to go back up. So there's a lot of options that you guys could do. If you don't like the outcome, you could change your settings. You could keep going back and forth. So we're looking for a nice gradient sky. And again, you don't have to use the same colors that I'm using. And then from there, I'm going to select my yellow. Make my brush a little bigger. Start from the bottom and go up. And then I'm going to make my brush smaller. And kind of blend a little bit better between those two colors. If you think that's too small, you can go up a little bit more. The only part that I don't like right now is this middle part, but the house is going to be somewhere over that. So what I would do if I wasn't making a video is I would go back and blend that a little bit better because it's very like splotchy. But I think the rest has a good gradient from dark to light. And again, this is going to be the background, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. I could always go back and change it because it's on a separate layer, so I could, once I'm done working, building up my house, I could go back into this layer and hide all the other layers. Let's see what it looks like when I turn this one on. Looks the same because this layer is darker, so you can't really see. But maybe if I drag this layer above, it kind of brings back some of that watercolor feel. All I did was I moved the watercolor above the oil painting. It actually kind of fixed that problem I was having in the middle, but then it added some different problems that I would want to blend up here. So it's going to take a little bit of practice. You guys might want to practice tomorrow while you're at home, using the different brushes, seeing the styles, how to get the look that you want. And then I want you to have a sky that you like by Wednesday. So I want you to create a sky that you're ready to use. And then on Wednesday, we're going to go back into how to build up the foreground of the picture. So good luck. Hopefully you like it.